The Hall of Fame induction speech was already written. Coach Daniel "Danny" Roberts, 70 years old, Texas high school football legend, sat in his den on Friday morning, October 11th, 2024, reviewing the remarks he'd prepared for tomorrow's ceremony. The Texas High School Coaches Association would induct him into their Hall of Fame, recognizing 45 years of coaching excellence, 3 state championships, 200 wins, a stadium named in his honor. He'd written a speech thanking players, assistant coaches, and the Westfield community that had supported him since 1978. He would never deliver that speech. Because at exactly 9:37 a.m., one day before the ceremony, Detective Maria Santos stood at Roberts' front door with a DNA match report connecting Roberts to a cigarette found in Jennifer Hayes' car 46 years earlier. Behind Santos, 6 tactical officers waited, preparing to arrest a man who'd spent nearly 5 decades being called Coach while hiding murder. Roberts answered the door in his Westfield High School coaching polo, Hall of Fame ring on his finger, a gift from the 1985 state championship team. He saw Santos's badge, the officers, the grim expressions. The ring suddenly felt like evidence of a lie he'd lived since 1978. "Daniel Roberts?" Santos said. Roberts' hand went to his chest. He gripped the doorframe. "You're here about Jennifer Hayes." It wasn't a question. It was a confession spoken 46 years too late. Santos's voice was steel. "Daniel Roberts, you're under arrest for the murder of Jennifer Hayes." Roberts' legs buckled. He fell against the door, gasping. "Oh God, not now. Not before the ceremony? Not before." He trailed off, realizing how that sounded, caring more about his Hall of Fame induction than justice for Jennifer. Officers moved forward, secured handcuffs around wrists that had drawn plays on chalkboards, handed out trophies, shaken hands with governors. As they searched him, something fell from his wallet. A photograph, laminated, edges worn. Jennifer Hayes in her cheerleading captain uniform, homecoming 1978. The last game before Roberts killed her. Santos picked it up. "You've been carrying this for 46 years, while coaching, while winning championships." Roberts nodded, tears streaming. "Every game, every practice, every trophy presentation. I had Jennifer's picture, so I'd remember what my ambition cost, what I'd done to protect my career." Down the street, neighbors gathered, former players who'd attended Roberts' practices, parents whose sons had played under him, Mrs. Patterson, whose grandson Roberts had coached to a scholarship last year. They watched as Coach Roberts, the man with a stadium named after him, was led to a patrol car in handcuffs. "Coach," a former player called out. "Coach, what's happening?" Roberts stopped, looked at the crowd, people who'd trusted him with their sons, who'd celebrated championships with him, who'd raised money to name the stadium Roberts Field. "I killed Jennifer Hayes in 1978, he said, voice breaking. "I've been lying every day since. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to all of you." The confession rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Former players who'd idolized him stood frozen. Parents who'd trusted him with their children's futures began crying. And Roberts watched 46 years of respect collapse in seconds. As the patrol car door closed, Roberts pressed his face against the window, staring at his house where championship photos lined the walls, where the Hall of Fame plaque would have been displayed tomorrow. Then he collapsed forward and began sobbing, the sound raw and broken. By 10 a.m., Westfield, Texas, population 15,000, where Friday night football was religion and Coach Roberts was legend, was waking to news that would shatter 46 years of hero worship. To understand how Daniel Roberts lived free for nearly half a century, while Jennifer Hayes' family waited for answers, you have to go back to an October night in 1978, when football coaches were beyond reproach and legends didn't look like murderers. Jennifer Lynn Hayes was 21 years old on October 13, 1978, a senior at University of Texas, majoring in education. She'd been Westfield High School's cheerleading captain her senior year, graduated valedictorian in 1975. She'd returned to Westfield that October weekend as volunteer cheerleading coach for homecoming, helping her former squad prepare for the game against rival Oakwood High. October 13th was a Friday, homecoming night. Westfield won 28-21, securing their playoff position. Jennifer had coached the cheerleaders through their halftime routine, perfect as always. After the game, she helped put away equipment, store uniforms, lock the field house. Head coach Daniel Roberts was still at the stadium, reviewing game film in his office, as he did after every game. At 10:47 p.m., multiple witnesses saw Jennifer talking to Coach Roberts in the parking lot. He'd offered to help her carry equipment to her car. She accepted. Coach Roberts was trusted, respected, someone who'd coached her brother, helped get her college recommendations. She was perfectly safe with him, or so everyone thought. Jennifer never made it home. At 1:15 a.m., Jennifer's parents called Westfield police. Their daughter hadn't returned. She'd said she'd be home by midnight. At 2:34 a.m., police found Jennifer's car at Lake Travis Park, doors unlocked, keys in the ignition, her purse on the passenger seat. The cheerleading equipment she'd been carrying was scattered near the trunk, but no Jennifer. Among the first responders, Coach Daniel Roberts, offering to help search, to coordinate the football team to comb the area, to do whatever necessary. The coach whose parking lot conversation with Jennifer had been her last known interaction. For Robert and Linda Hayes, Jennifer's disappearance destroyed their future. Their daughter was supposed to graduate in May, become a teacher, get married to her college boyfriend Marcus. Instead, they got vigils, searches, and 46 years of unanswered questions. Every October 13th, homecoming night, the Hayes family held a memorial at Westfield High Stadium, and every year, without fail, Coach Daniel Roberts attended. In 1985, when Westfield won the state championship, Roberts dedicated the trophy to Jennifer's memory. In 1998, when the school board named the stadium Roberts Field, he requested a memorial plaque for Jennifer be installed at the entrance. At the 30th anniversary memorial in 2008, Roberts stood beside Robert Hayes, now 75, both men watching current cheerleaders perform in Jennifer's honor. She would have been a wonderful teacher, Roberts said quietly. She loved working with kids. Roberts squeezed his shoulder. She was one of the best. I still think about her leadership, her spirit. She deserved better than what happened to her. Robert looked at the man who'd been his son's coach, who'd helped him cope with Jennifer's loss. Thank you for keeping her memory alive, Coach, for making sure these kids know who she was. Roberts couldn't meet his eyes, because keeping Jennifer's memory alive wasn't honor. It was penance. It was watching cheerleaders perform routines Jennifer should have coached. It was winning championships Jennifer should have celebrated. It was building a legacy on the foundation of her murder. The breakthrough began in 2022, when Westfield Police received funding for cold case DNA analysis. Detective Maria Santos reviewed the Hayes case. Among preserved evidence, a cigarette butt found in Jennifer's car in 1978, not Jennifer's brand. In 1978, cigarette DNA was useless. But in 2023, advanced technology recovered a profile. It was entered into CODIS. No match. In March 2024, forensic genetic genealogy identified family connections, leading to Daniel Eugene Roberts. On October 9, 2024, investigators collected Roberts's discarded coffee cup after a Booster Club meeting. DNA analysis came back October 10th. Perfect match. The arrest warrant was signed that afternoon. On October 11, 2024, at 9:37 a.m., one day before Roberts's Hall of Fame induction, Detective Santos arrested him. And when the photo of Jennifer fell from his wallet, when he said, "Not before the ceremony," when he publicly confessed, Santos knew they had their man. The Hall of Fame ceremony was canceled. Roberts Field, the stadium named in his honor, would be renamed. Because Coach Daniel Roberts, Texas coaching legend, was a murderer who'd hidden his crime for 46 years while building a career on Friday Night Lights. And now, finally, Jennifer Hayes' family would get answers they'd waited nearly half a century to hear. The interrogation room at Texas Department of Public Safety headquarters felt nothing like a locker room. No whiteboards with plays, no jerseys, no trophies. Just gray concrete walls, a metal table bolted to the floor, 2 hard chairs, and a 70-year-old coach in an orange jumpsuit whose game clock had finally hit 0. Daniel Coach Roberts sat slumped, his Hall of Fame ring already taken away and bagged as evidence. His hands were cuffed to a steel ring on the table. Across from him, Detective Maria Santos laid a thick folder in front of her, thicker than any playbook he had ever drawn up. 46 years of reports, photos, interviews, and, on the top, a single sheet of paper that mattered more than all of it. For almost half an hour, neither of them spoke. Roberts stared at the table. Santos watched him. The same man who had once owned every room he walked into now couldn't even control his own breathing. "How bad is it?" he finally asked, voice rough. "I mean, I know it's bad, but how bad?" Santos slid the top page across the table with 2 fingers. "The cigarette in Jennifer's car," she said. "The one everyone assumed was some stranger's. The saliva on the filter. We pulled a profile. This is the DNA match. It's you, Coach. 100%. Roberts's fingers shook so violently the chain on the cuffs rattled. He stared at the page like it was written in another language. "I used to smoke one after every game," he whispered. "Superstition. Win or lose. 1 cigarette, then film. I thought I was careful that night. I guess I wasn't." "You weren't," Santos said. Her voice was flat, almost bored, but her eyes were ice. "Start at the stadium, homecoming, October 13th, 1978. From the moment the final whistle blew." Roberts's eyes drifted to the ceiling, then back down. "We beat Oakwood," he said. 28-21. Crowd going crazy, band blaring, whole town losing its mind. We were locked for playoffs, reporters shoving mics in my face. It was one of those nights you think you'll remember, for all the right reasons." He swallowed. Jennifer was down on the field with the cheer squad. She'd come back from UT to help them with homecoming, volunteering, even though she had midterms the next week. That was Jennifer, always giving more than she had to. He rubbed his wrists against the metal. After the crowd cleared out, I went to my office, started breaking down film like I always did. Around 10:30, she knocked on the door, didn't wait for an answer. Just came in and closed it behind her. "What did she want?" Santos asked. "She said we needed to talk," Roberts said. "About recruiting, about envelopes, about things she heard and saw that week." He looked up, eyes red. She'd walked past the field house on Wednesday, heard me and a booster arguing. She saw him hand me an envelope. She wasn't stupid. She knew the rules. Said if I didn't come clean to the principal and the UIL, she'd write a letter herself. Said this town deserved a clean program. His mouth twisted into something that might once have been a smile. She told me football wasn't God, that no win was worth a lie. I told her she was young, she didn't get it, that scholarships depended on relationships, that I was doing what I had to do for the boys. And she didn't back down, Santos said. "No," Roberts answered. She said, "Then you'll have a chance to explain that to the committee when they investigate." She gave me until Monday. Then she walked out. He let out a long breath. I caught up with her in the parking lot, offered to help carry the megaphones and signs to her car, told her I wanted to talk more, away from campus. She hesitated. But it was me. Coach Roberts. I'd coached her brother. She trusted me. "Where did you drive?" Santos asked. "Toward her house at first," Roberts said. "Then I told her I needed to make a quick stop. Said I wanted to calm down before I said something I'd regret." She looked uneasy, but she didn't argue. I turned off toward Lake Travis. He closed his eyes. The car was quiet. Just the click of the blinker, the hum of the tires. She was looking out the window. I kept thinking about that letter, about everything I'd built burning down because a 21-year-old decided to be a hero. He opened his eyes again. I parked at the edge of the lake. The lot was almost empty. Just a couple of cars from fishermen down at the pier. There were no streetlights where I stopped. Just moonlight on the water. He swallowed again. I lit a cigarette. She wrinkled her nose. Said I should quit. I remember stupid details like that. Then I told her I'd thought about what she said, that I'd go to the principal on Monday. She studied me for a long time. Then she shook her head. "What did she say?" Santos asked. She said, "No, you won't. You're too invested in the myth of Coach Roberts. I'm not going to give you the option to back out. I'll write the letter myself." Then she reached for the door handle. His fingers flexed around the chain. I grabbed her wrist. She jerked away. The car dome light flicked on for a second when the latch clicked. I remember seeing her face in that yellow light. Angry, scared, sure of herself. She said, "Let go of me. Right now." He stared past Santos, seeing it all over again. "My hand went over her mouth before I even thought," he said. "She bit me. Hard. Right here." He yanked his wrist up as far as the chain allowed, showing a pale crescent scar near the base of his thumb. I yelled. She drove an elbow into my ribs. Her knee came up and hit the steering column. The horn blared once, loud in the dark. She slapped at the windshield with her free hand, leaving smeared prints on the fogged-up glass. Her nails raked my neck. I snapped. He swallowed. My other hand went to her throat. I shoved her back against the seat. She clawed at my arm. I remember one of her nails bending back and breaking. She screamed into my palm. Hot breath. Saliva. Then her voice went thin. Then, nothing. The room was very quiet. "How long did you hold on?" Santos's voice was like stone. "I don't know," he said. 20 seconds. A minute. Long enough for the horn to stop echoing in my head. Long enough for her hands to slide off my arm and hang there. Her eyes were open the whole time. That's what stayed with me. Not the sound. The way her eyes changed. From furious to shocked. Then, empty. He leaned forward until his forehead touched the cold metal of the table. I took my hand away. She slumped sideways. There was a little blood at the corner of her mouth from where she'd bitten my palm. My bite. My scar. My fault. Santos waited. Gave him no comfort. "What did you do next?" she asked. "There's a cove on the far side of the lake," Roberts said, not lifting his head. "Old dock from before they flooded more of the valley. The drop-off is steep. 30 feet to the bottom in just a few yards." He straightened slowly. I wrapped her in an old tarp from my trunk. Her hair was hanging out one end. I remember tucking it in, like I was tucking in one of my own kids. I had 2 45-pound barbell plates in the back seat from the weight room. I grabbed some rope from the trunk, tied the plates to her ankles. The whole time I kept waiting for headlights, for someone to pull in, for anything. Nothing. He licked his lips. I drove around to the cove, parked where the gravel meets the dirt. There was an aluminum fishing boat chained to a post. I knew it would be there. I'd fished that cove before. I unhooked the chain, dragged the boat to the water, and heaved her in. The plates clanged on the metal. I almost lost it right there. He stared at his hands. I rowed out until the shore lights disappeared. Just black water around us. The only sound was the oars and the plates scraping in the bottom of the boat. My chest was so tight I thought I'd pass out, and we'd both go under. He shut his eyes again. I rolled her over the side. The tarp slipped for a second, and her hand fell free. I saw her fingers, that broken nail. I pushed her the rest of the way. The weights tipped, dragged her under. The water closed over her like she'd never existed. He looked at Santos, face gray. And then I rode back, parked her car at the public lot, left her purse on the seat, tossed her keys under the driver's side, scattered the cheer gear like she'd been followed there, walked back to my truck, drove home, washed my hands until the skin cracked, burned my clothes in a metal drum behind the house, sat on the edge of the tub and stared at the tile until the phone rang. While Roberts talked, a search warrant team moved through his house. The den was a museum of Westfield football. 3 state championship trophies gleamed on the middle shelf of a glass case. District plaques lined the walls. Framed photos showed Roberts hoisted on players' shoulders, shaking hands with politicians, cutting victory cakes. Detective Alan Ruiz's eye caught a small, unmarked wooden box tucked behind the trophies. It didn't match the polished metal and glass around it. He opened it carefully. Inside, on a square of faded red felt, sat a tarnished silver tiara. Faux rhinestones, bent in one corner, a cheap homecoming crown. Taped to the underside of the lid was a folded, yellowed homecoming program from October 1974. The cover read, Westfield High versus Oakwood, Homecoming. Inside, under the list of court members, someone had circled Jennifer Hayes, Homecoming Queen, twice in blue ink. On the back of the program, in Roberts's tight handwriting, I took this from the office after the storm. She never got to wear it. Because of me. I'll keep it until I do something that makes up for what I've done, if that's even possible. Ruiz stared at the words for a long moment, bile rising in his throat. He bagged the box and the program and drove them straight to headquarters. When Santos laid the photos in front of Roberts, he recoiled like she'd slapped him. You stole her crown, Santos said. You kept it in your trophy case, next to your state championships. Roberts's eyes filled again. They were going to crown her at halftime in '74, he said. Storm rolled in. Ceremony moved to the gym after the game. I watched them carry the crown past the fieldhouse window. I couldn't stand it. Watching everyone clap for her when I knew what I'd done 2 years earlier. He swallowed. I broke into the principal's office that night. Took it out of the box. It felt light. Cheap. Not like the weight I'd been carrying. I told myself if I kept it there, with the trophies, I'd never forget. Every time I opened that case, I'd see what I'd traded for those wins. You didn't forget, Santos said. You just kept coaching anyway. He nodded, tears running down his cheeks. I thought if I won enough, if I got enough boys' scholarships, if I turned enough kids' lives around, maybe. I don't know. Maybe God would put that on the other side of the scale. But it doesn't work like that, does it? No, Santos said. It doesn't. The recovery operation at Lake Travis started at sunrise on October 15th, 2024. Patrol boats cordoned off the cove Roberts had marked on a map. Sonar scans painted jagged images of the lake bed on flickering screens. After an hour, a shape appeared at 32 feet. Long, irregular, with dense spots at one end. Dive Team 1 rolled backward off their boat at 9:14 a.m. The water was cold and murky, visibility barely a meter. Silt clouds mushroomed around every kick of their fins. Their helmet cameras showed gray-green water, drifting particulates, faint beams of light. At 30 feet, the lake floor dropped away on a steep ledge. One diver signaled with his fist, and thumb pointed down. The other followed him over the edge. At 32 feet, their lamps caught something that didn't belong, a dark mass half buried in the silt. As they got closer, details emerged. shreds of tarp peeling away like dead skin. Rope, frayed but still looped around what were clearly bones. A rust-eaten barbell plate jutting from the muck, its once smooth surface pitted and scarred. One diver wiped silt away from near the upper part of the bundle. His glove passed over something softer. Fabric, faded navy and white. He brushed more carefully. A ghost of glitter caught the lamplight. Beneath the mud, faint but unmistakable, a stitched letter W in the old Westfield script. A scrap of her cheer jacket. 46 years at the bottom of the lake and still clinging to her. The diver froze, then made the found signal to his partner. On the surface, the boat crew saw the tug on the line and the thumbs flat to throat signal that meant target located. It took 6 hours to free the remains from the suction of the lake bed without losing crucial evidence. When the body bag finally broke the surface, dripping lake water and decades of silt, the crowd on shore went silent. Robert and Linda Hayes sat under a canopy on collapsible chairs, blankets around their shoulders despite the Texas sun. When the stretcher rolled past, Linda's hand shot out and gripped the edge of the bag. "My baby," she whispered. "My Jenny. We're taking you home now." The trial that followed moved quickly. With the confession, the DNA, the crown, the program, and the lake recovery, there was little room for doubt. Roberts' lawyer tried to argue that his decades of service to youth, the championships, the scholarships mitigated his crime. The prosecutor tore that argument apart. Every trophy Daniel Roberts raised, she told the jury, was raised by hands that put a young woman at the bottom of a lake. Every pep talk about character came from a man who killed to protect his own record. Every time this town roared his name on Friday nights, the loudest voice missing from that crowd belonged to Jennifer Hayes. Don't tell me about his legacy. His legacy is lying in a grave that took 46 years to dig. Former players took the stand. Some defended the man who had shaped their lives. Others couldn't. One, now in his 50s, cried openly. "He taught us to never cheat," he said, "to own our mistakes, to do the right thing even if it cost us the game. Now I find out he killed someone to protect a season. I don't know what to do with that." Sarah Hayes, Jennifer's younger sister, was the last witness. "We stood under a sign that said, 'Roberts Field,' for 26 years," she said. "We listened to crowds chant his name while we laid flowers at my sister's plaque. We didn't know the truth then, but he did. Every single time." She held up the restored crown. "This is Jennifer's," she said. "He stole it. He hid it. He put it next to his trophies. He built a life under Friday night lights on top of what he did in the dark. Give him the only title he's earned. Murderer." The jury took less than 3 hours. Guilty. Life in prison without parole. Roberts died 4 months later, on February 28, 2025, after a stroke in his cell. Guards found one photo taped to the wall above his bunk. Jennifer in her cheerleading uniform, pom-poms at her sides, smiling straight at the camera. Underneath, in handwriting made shaky by age and regret, 4 words: "I picked wins over you." In the fall of 2025, the stadium reopened under a new name. The metal letters spelling Roberts Field came down in the quiet of a Tuesday morning. A week later, at homecoming, a tarp dropped to reveal the new sign: Jennifer Hayes Memorial Stadium. Before kickoff, under the lights she once cheered beneath, Sarah Hayes walked to midfield, holding her sister's crown. The band fell silent. Thousands of people, some who had cheered for Roberts for decades, rose to their feet. "Jennifer was never just a victim," Sarah said into the microphone. "She was a student, a leader, a daughter, a sister. She loved this team, this town. She believed truth mattered more than titles. For 46 years, this place bore the name of the man who silenced her. Tonight, we change that. She set the crown on a small pedestal by the 50-yard line for a moment, then picked it up again. "This field belongs to Jennifer now," Sarah said, "and to every kid who's ever been told to keep quiet for the good of the program. The only legacy worth cheering for is one that can stand in the light." The crowd started clapping. Then someone in the student section began to chant her name. "Jennifer! Jennifer!" Former players joined in. Parents, teachers, old men in worn leather jackets who had once chanted, "Roberts! Roberts!" now shouted, "Jennifer!" until their voices cracked. In the tunnel, the current Westfield team listened, helmets in hand, eyes wide. On the locker room wall, under the new stadium nameplate, a plaque waited for them to read on their way out to the field. Jennifer Lynn Hayes, 1957 toward 1978, cheer captain, scholar, daughter, silenced by a lie, remembered in truth. When the team ran out under the lights that night, they did it on a field finally bearing the right name. And in Westfield, Texas, where football had once been worth anything, people had learned the hardest possible way that no win is worth a life, no legend is worth a lie, and no name belongs on a stadium unless it can survive the truth.